Sometimes people who look like they hate each other on screen aren't exactly acting. These are the stories of some major divas and total jerks who some actors have said they can't stand.
Which Batman villain was a nightmare to work with on set? And who punched John Leguizamo on the first day of rehearsal? Keep watching to learn which actors have been rude, offensive, or downright abusive to their co-stars. Glee was intended to be a wholesome show, with Lea Michele feeling right at home in the role of the naive girl next door. Who would have expected then that the actor behind the lovable Rachel Berry would eventually become infamous for tormenting her co-stars? Numerous Glee veterans have called out Michele for highly problematic on-set behavior in the years since the show went off the air. It all began when season 6 Glee star Samantha Marie Ware replied to Michelle's tweet showing support for Black Lives Matter with a since-deleted comment, saying, "Remember when you made my first television gig a living hell? I believe you told everyone that if you had the opportunity, you would in my wig," amongst other traumatic microaggressions that made me question a career in Hollywood. Michele apologized publicly on Instagram, but the potentially career-ending revelations didn't end there. Glee co-star Heather Morris tweeted that Michele was disrespectful and, quote, unpleasant to work with. Dabier Snell, who briefly appeared in the Glee episode New Directions, was a little less polite, saying, "Girl, you wouldn't let me sit at the table with the other cast members because I didn't belong there. You, Lea." Unfortunately, Michelle's mistreatment of co-stars wasn't confined to the Glee set, or television in general. Gerard Canonico, who starred alongside Michele in Spring Awakening on Broadway, called her out for constantly playing the victim when addressing bullying claims. Commenting under Michelle's apology post, Canonico wrote, "You are nothing but a nightmare to me and fellow understudy cast members." It's not a secret that Daniel Day-Lewis is an extreme method actor, but his co-stars often suffer as a consequence. Day-Lewis clashed with Liam Neeson on the set of Gangs of New York, with the Irish star repeatedly branding his method acting madness. Speaking with reporters after the Taken premiere, Neeson admitted that he was irritated by Day-Lewis' insistence that everyone refer to him by his character's name, even when they met up at the gym during out-of-work hours. Neeson said of his technique, "Actors such as Daniel Day-Lewis are often held up as this is the way to act, but I don't go to bed dreaming and sleeping the character." Likewise, although Day-Lewis Phantom Thread co-star Vicky Krieps enjoyed making the film, she said the 3-time Best Actor winner basically lived as his cold, cruel protagonist throughout production, and treated his on-screen lover accordingly. As was noted in The Guardian, preparing his role as Reynolds Woodcock, a London couturier, Day-Lewis, with his habitual method actor zeal, learned to think like Balenciaga, sewed 100 buttonholes, and kept Krieps at bay. Krieps explained that she didn't actually meet Day-Lewis until their first scene together, stating, "I think this is what he, Day-Lewis, intended. I thought, if that is the rule of the game, I'll play it. I spent a whole day staring into greenery to avoid him."
I'm not playing a game?
Yes,
What game am I playing? What game? What precisely is the nature of my game? You tell me.
Think there's madness to his method? Be prepared. Day-Lewis will drink his detractor's milkshake. Bill Murray may be a hero to many, but beneath his lovable deadpan persona lies a dark side. There's been a long-standing rumor that Murray treated Lucy Liu appallingly on the set of Charlie's Angels. In a 2009 interview with The Times, the actor pretty much confirmed that he was a jerk on set, but appeared to place the blame squarely on Liu, a common tactic used by abusive men. Murray said, "Look, I will dismiss you completely if you are unprofessional and working with me." Giving her side of the story to the Los Angeles Times, Liu confirmed that Murray did not treat her kindly. She elaborated, "As we're doing the scene, Bill starts to sort of hurl insults, and I won't get into the specifics, but it kept going on and on. Some of the language was inexcusable and unacceptable, and I was not going to just sit there and take it. So yes, I stood up for myself and I don't regret it." On the Drew Barrymore show, the host confirmed that while Murray was unkind to all his Charlie's Angels co-stars, he zeroed in on Liu. The other Angels weren't happy with this though. Barrymore remembered, "We all supported her and backed her up." Despite his marriage to feminist actor Annette Bening, actor and director Warren Beatty has a lengthy history of alleged harassment towards female co-stars. This harassment reportedly occurred on the sets of two of his most famous films, Dick Tracy and Reds. Blade Runner star Sean Young, whose acting career began to falter in the late 1980s, credits Beatty with effectively blacklisting her from Hollywood after she spurned his advances during production on Dick Tracy. Young told the Daily Beast that she was fired from the production for refusing to sleep with Beatty, saying, "It's not just Warren, it's across the board. Ever since the movie business began, women have been treated as a commodity. There was always someone grabbing you, and I just ignored it." Additionally, British actor Miriam Margolyes, who is openly gay, has claimed that Beatty made crude remarks about her sexuality during her audition for Reds. During an interview with ITV, Margolyes recalled her creepy encounter with the film's star and director in his trailer, saying, "I opened the door, he looked me up, down, up, and said, 'Do you f***?' To which Margolyes responded, 'Yes, but not you.'" There's a reason why Chevy Chase has become such a controversial figure in recent years. The Saturday Night Live veteran has a long history of treating co-stars appallingly. When Terry Sweeney became the first openly gay cast member on SNL, he found himself the subject of homophobic abuse whenever Chase happened to be hosting the show. According to the book, Live from New York, Chase suggested that Sweeney should be weighed on a weekly basis to ascertain whether he had AIDS, leading to the comedian being reprimanded. Sweeney remembered, "He was really furious that he had to apologize to me." Chase was reportedly banned from returning to the show after hitting cast member Sherry O'Terry on the back of the head, although SNL showrunner Lorne Michaels has denied these claims. While playing the role of Pierce Hawthorne in Community years later, Chase allegedly racially abused Donald Glover, telling him on one occasion, "People think you're funnier because you're black."
Is that a new stereotype?
The show's creator, Dan Harmon, corroborated these claims, explaining to The New Yorker, "Chevy was the first to realize how immensely gifted Donald was, and the way he expressed his jealousy was to try to throw Donald off. I remember apologizing to Donald after a particularly rough night of Chevy's non-PC verbiage." Responding to these claims, Chase remained evasive, simply saying that he was, quote, "saddened to hear that Donald perceived me in that light." Leonard Roberts claims that his on-screen wife, Allie Larter, subjected him to racism behind the scenes of Heroes, setting off a chain of events that ended with his character being killed off in Season 2. Roberts wrote in Variety, "D.L. Hawkins was in an interracial marriage with Nikki Sanders, a white woman played by Allie Larter. The script suggested D.L. and Nikki had a volatile relationship, and it wasn't long before Art was imitating life, with me on the receiving end of pushback from my co-star. Despite Larter being the instigator, Roberts attempted to assuage the rift by gifting her a bottle of wine and a heartfelt note, but she refused to acknowledge the gesture of goodwill. On another occasion, Larter refused to shoot an intimate scene with Roberts, despite being happy to film a sex scene with white actor Adrian Pasdar on a later occasion. In a damning revelation, he claimed that Larter attempted to stop him from ever divulging what had happened. Variety notes that Roberts' claims were verified by 10 people who worked on the show. Larter responded to the accusations in a statement to TV Line, saying, "I am truly sorry for any role I may have played in his painful experience during that time, and I wish him and his family the very best." There has long been an aura of mystique surrounding Marlon Brando, who is widely regarded as one of the greatest icons of Hollywood's golden age. However, despite his numerous progressive stances, most notably his support of Native Americans and the civil rights movement, many of the actor's actions were inharmonious with his compassionate views. The controversial film Last Tango in Paris contains an infamous rape scene, one that Brando and director Bernardo Bertolucci refused to tell actress Maria Schneider about beforehand. In a resurfaced interview, Bertolucci admitted, "I wanted her to react humiliated. I think she hated me and also Marlon because we didn't tell her." Schneider found the experience to be humiliating indeed, saying, "So I did the scene and I cried. I cried real tears during that scene. I was feeling humiliation." In a separate incident, Brando yelled at Dennis Hopper on the set of Apocalypse Now over a minor misunderstanding and proceeded to have an overblown tantrum. Hopper remembered, he gets up and says, "I don't have to listen to this. I don't have to take this." And he is screaming and yelling, "Why do I have to hear it from him? I have to hear it from this punk." In Batman Forever, Jim Carrey and Tommy Lee Jones played the iconic villains Riddler and Two-Face, who team up to take on the Caped Crusader. Behind the scenes, however, it appeared that Jones may have lived up to his character's two-faced nature a little too much. Director Joel Schumacher has claimed that Jones acted like a bully towards Carrey on the set of the heavily panned 90s flick. In a 2019 interview with Vulture, the late filmmaker said, "He wasn't kind to Jim. He did not act towards Jim the way an Oscar winner with a star on Hollywood Boulevard, being the oldest member of the cast and having such a distinguished career and the accolades to go with it, should have acted towards Jim." During an appearance on Norm Macdonald Live, Carrey addressed the hostile working environment, confessing, "Tommy Lee Jones said to me that he couldn't sanction my performance. I was the star. That was the problem." Despite Carrey's best efforts, Jones would not be swayed. The comic continued, "I went over and I said, 'Hey Tommy, how you doing?' And the blood just drained from his face like he had been thinking about me for 24 hours a day. He said, 'I cannot sanction your buffoonery.' Holy mackerel, it seems like Jones and Carrey just have incompatible philosophies when it comes to acting."
The difference? Showmanship.
Despite his beloved, sensitive performance in films like The Graduate and Rain Man, tales of Dustin Hoffman's horrifying mistreatment of co-stars started to arise in 2017, casting significant doubt on the actor's previously clean-cut public image. Catherine Rossiter, who acted alongside Hoffman on the Broadway revival of Death of a Salesman, alleged that Hoffman was a total creep, both in and out of character. In a piece for The Hollywood Reporter, Rossiter wrote that Hoffman suggested that they go over their lines in a hotel room and pressured her into giving him a back rub. She wrote, "That was the beginning of what was to become a horrific, demoralizing, and abusive experience at the hands, literally, of one of my acting idols." The abuse took its toll on Rossiter, who continued, "Night after night, I went home and cried. I withdrew and got depressed and did not have any good interpersonal relationships with the cast. How could the same man who fought to get me the job, who complimented my work, who essentially launched my career, how could he also be this sexual power abuser?" Additionally, Slate unearthed a Time article from 1979 in which Meryl Streep recalled her first encounter with Hoffman, which was also during theater work. Streep recalled, "He came up to me and said, 'I'm Dustin Burp Hoffman,' and he put his hand on my breast. What an obnoxious pig," I thought. He may have been a Hollywood legend, but Kirk Douglas had an infamous mean side. Plenty of actors from Hollywood's golden age have shared horror stories of their time on set with the Spartacus star. If you were acting alongside Douglas, you had to watch out. During the filming of The Heroes of Telemark, Douglas appeared to take an immediate dislike to Richard Harris, which actor David Weston attributed to the aging Douglas being jealous of Harris' youth. Weston told The Telegraph that the first words he heard Douglas say to Harris on set were, "Are you going to be as big a as they say you are?" Douglas later grew even more bitter when he noticed that Harris was driving a swanky car and threatened to delay production until he too was given a luxury vehicle. Similarly, Douglas mistreated Doris Day on the set of 1950's Young Man with a Horn, the filming of which Day described as, quote, "an utterly joyless experience." He was also cruel to Farrah Fawcett during the filming of the heavily panned sci-fi flick Saturn III. According to The Times, Douglas referred to Fawcett as Mrs. Majors, which upset her, considering she was in the midst of a divorce from actor Lee Majors. Of course, none of this is as monstrous as the accusation leveled by Lana Wood, who alleges that Douglas sexually assaulted her sister Natalie during production on The Searchers in 1955. In his heyday, Rex Harrison was an acclaimed actor, immortalized through his iconic depiction of grammar snob Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady, both on Broadway and on the silver screen. Unfortunately, despite the lovable nature of his most iconic performance, Harrison apparently treated numerous co-stars like absolute trash. During the Broadway run of My Fair Lady, Harrison reportedly developed an intense hatred for Julie Andrews, who played Cockney flower girl Eliza Doolittle, remarking, "If that is still here on Monday, I'm quitting the show." Andrews addressed Harrison's difficult behavior in her memoir, Home. When My Fair Lady was adapted into the classic 1964 film, Harrison was cast alongside Audrey Hepburn, to whom he took an immediate dislike to as well. He branded Hepburn Bloody Audrey and argued that she was the wrong choice for the part. In his memoirs, Roger Moore said of the grumpy actor, Rex Harrison could be a rather mean-spirited man, and he wasn't regarded very warmly by those who knew him. On the set of Executive Decision, Steven Seagal acted like a total jerk. According to John Leguizamo, Seagal had hefty delusions of grandeur and attempted to dominate his fellow actors. Leguizamo and the other experienced actors on set were hoping to maintain a professional atmosphere, but Seagal had other ideas.
He comes in, I'm in command. What I say is law. You disagree? And I started cracking. I was like,
Unfortunately, Seagal didn't take Leguizamo's insubordination lightly.
And he Aikido'd me against the brick wall. Pow! Knocked all the air out of me. I was like, what?
In a different interview, actor Stephen Tobolowsky said that working with Seagal on The Glimmer Man was a traumatic experience. Tobolowsky told AV Club, "Director John Gray came in and told me in a panic that Steven Seagal wanted to rewrite the script. He decided it was bad for his karma to constantly be killing people in movies, so he didn't want to kill me anymore." Seagal eventually relented, only to end up ad-libbing a line that implied Tobolowsky's character hadn't died at all. Actor and stand-up comic David Cross is known for being quite vocal about his left-wing views, so it was a major shock when stories of Cross hurling horrendous abuse at Charlene Yee surfaced in 2017. Cross and Yee both lent their voices to the lighthearted kids film Next Gen, but the casting seemed to dredge up some negative memories behind the scenes. In a series of now-deleted tweets, Yee claimed that Cross made racist remarks when the two were introduced to each other by their mutual friend, Michael Cera, around 2007. Yee wrote, "It is very uncool that a 40-plus man was being racist toward me." According to Yee, Cross made various offensive jibes and even questioned whether they could speak English. Responding to the accusations, Cross claimed that he couldn't remember any of these racist statements, but didn't deny them either, elaborating, "I would never intentionally hurt someone like that. I do not remember doing this when I met them. I am not accusing Charlene Yee of lying, and I am truly sorry." In a lengthy response, Cross later backtracked on his inability to recollect the encounter. He admitted that he racially abused Yee and offended his Arrested Development co-star, Sarah. While Cross apologized for upsetting Yee and Sarah, he dubiously claimed that he was in character as a, quote, redneck racist. Just as British actor Noel Clarke was flying high due to the popularity of his TV show Viewpoint, the show was pulled right before its final episode, in the wake of some alarming revelations. As reported by The Guardian, 20 women have accused Clarke of sexual harassment, unwanted touching or groping, sexually inappropriate behavior and comments on set, professional misconduct, taking and sharing sexually explicit pictures and videos without consent, and bullying. Jing Lu-si starred alongside Clarke in the film SAS Red Notice and alleged that he propositioned her for sex, telling his co-star that he, quote, couldn't help it. When Lucy rejected Clarke's advances, she said he exhibited a terrifying dark side and threatened her. Lucy recalled Clarke telling her, "All right, fine, don't tell anyone about this, yeah? Because if you do, it will get back to me. I will find out." In addition to the many female co-stars who accused Clarke of sexual misconduct, Adam Deacon, who starred alongside the disgraced actor in Adulthood, called out his former co-star on Twitter, going as far as to call him sociopathic. Deacon claimed that Clarke, quote, continually sabotaged his career, writing, "I only wish that everyone had taken more notice of my words. His horrific abuse of power could have been stopped before it affected so many others."
As Kendall Roy on HBO's Succession, Jeremy Strong stars in one of the biggest shows on television. But as his career has been on a massive upswing, his reputation amongst his fellow actors has taken a bit of a hit. Though he rejects the label himself, Strong is frequently described as a method actor. Phenomenal results can be achieved by remaining in character in this fashion. But the tactics of method actors often rub crew members and castmates the wrong way. One notorious profile on Strong in The New Yorker struck a particularly powerful blow to his public reputation. The profile revealed that while shooting Succession, he was prone to preparing rehearsed speeches and trying to pass them off as improvisation, as well as getting inebriated on set when his character fell off the wagon. His castmates have described his method acting approach as occasionally frustrating or intrusive, but none have been more vocally opposed to his habits than Brian Cox, who plays Strong's on-screen father, Logan Roy. During an interview with Town & Country, Cox said that he thinks Strong is a fantastic actor, but that he finds his method acting style to be annoying. Succession is far from the only production where Strong's method acting has been an impediment for others. On the trial of the Chicago 7, he frequently ruined takes by pulling pranks while in character as hippie Jerry Rubin. And for one scene, he requested to be blasted with real tear gas, even though that would have meant putting hundreds of extras and crew members through the same physical torment. Gérard Depardieu is one of the most celebrated actors in the history of French cinema. Having nearly 250 credits in his filmography over the course of 5 decades, Depardieu has played many iconic and acclaimed roles. With such superstardom inflating his ego, he has been known to act as if the rules didn't apply to him. Depardieu committed petty crime in his youth, and he's had plenty of brushes with the law after becoming a star as well.
Did you steal?
Steal?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
His scandals ran the gamut from physical assault and frequent fighting to white-collar crimes connected to his numerous businesses, to a weird incident in which he urinated on a plane.
You were flying to Ireland?
Yes, I pee on the plane, yes.
During the #MeToo movement, Depardieu was accused of sexual assaults by more than a dozen women, most of whom were actors or crew members who worked with him. As reported by the Associated Press, 13 accusers came out against him, while also suggesting that his total number of victims was surely much higher since he had a reputation for frequently groping and fondling the extras on his film shoots. Depardieu has often been hailed as one of the greatest actors of his generation, but incredible performances don't justify his actions by any stretch of the imagination. Tobey Maguire is best known for starring as Spider-Man in the Sam Raimi trilogy, and he recently reprised a role in Spider-Man No Way Home. The heroic, morally upright side of the character is allegedly not one shared by Maguire personally. For many years, the actor has had a reputation for being hard to work with and extremely troublesome behind the scenes. His rude, out-of-control behavior on sets has drawn fire from his co-stars, and his public outbursts captured by paparazzi have hurt his image with the general public. Maguire is one of the only successful Hollywood stars to be so incendiary in real life that he became the villain of a woman's non-fiction autobiography and its corresponding film adaptation. The 2017 film Molly's Game tells the true story of Molly Bloom, who ran high-stakes poker games for Hollywood celebrities. In the film, Michael Cera plays an antagonist who goes by Player X. He makes it his mission to destroy Bloom's reputation and livelihood while also being as awful as possible to his fellow players at every turn. Though the character's true identity remains unnamed in the movie, Bloom names him outright as Tobey Maguire in her autobiography. Jennifer Lopez has drawn acclaim for both her music and her acting, as well as for having led a successful career as a producer. Despite her legions of die-hard fans, Lopez's reputation is far less sterling when it comes to those who have to work with her, not just enjoy her output from a distance. She has frequently been described as difficult or outright impossible to work with professionally. Lopez has shown a tendency to lash out at and insult other celebrities when giving interviews. One of the celebrities that Lopez was most harsh towards was Cameron Diaz, in a now infamous interview with Movie Line. When the two were cast alongside each other in What to Expect When You're Expecting, there was obviously a lot of animosity on set. This was far from being an isolated incident, as there are countless stories of her making life harder for co-stars and crew members, and even members of the general public, such as a hotel maid who she reportedly had fired for asking for an autograph. Lopez has since denied that claim. Lara Flynn Boyle's big breakout role was on the one-of-a-kind television phenomenon Twin Peaks. She played Donna Haywood, the best friend of murder victim Laura Palmer. Boyle starred in both of the show's 2 seasons before it was prematurely cancelled by ABC. When the prequel movie Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me was released just 1 year after the cancellation, Boyle was no longer involved, although her character still was. The recasting of Donna Haywood with Moira Kelly raised fans' suspicions that behind-the-scenes issues had led to Boyle's removal from Twin Peaks, especially considering the fact that she was the only cast member replaced. When the 2017 revival of the series Twin Peaks: The Return finally came to fruition many years later, Boyle publicly voiced her desire to return to the series. Instead, creator David Lynch purposefully excluded her, despite pretty much everyone else returning. Her behind-the-scenes romances were considered by some to be a hindrance to the series. According to an AV Club interview with Sherilyn Fenn, she allegedly put a stop to the planned romance between the Dale Cooper and Audrey Horne characters because she was dating actor Kyle MacLachlan in real life. Boyle had a few other major roles outside of Twin Peaks, but as word spread of her being difficult to work with, her good roles dried up. These days, her acting gigs are few and far apart, and frequently take the form of trashy B-movies like Hansel and Gretel Get Baked. Casey Affleck is a younger brother of fellow actor Ben Affleck. The brothers have worked together many times over the years, but Casey Affleck's career took a bit longer to reach the heights of his brothers. Still, many film critics considered him to be the superior actor of the two. and the one who has consistently chosen more interesting projects. His performances in movies like The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford and Manchester by the Sea both drew widespread acclaim, and the latter even earned him his first Oscar win.
I'm sorry, Lee. He passed away about an hour ago.
As reported by the Daily Beast, Affleck was accused of sexual harassment by multiple women, including the cinematographer and the producer of 2010's I'm Still Here. The accusations led to a pair of lawsuits that Affleck settled out of court. On the same shoot, Affleck partially admitted to creating an unsafe work environment and that he was rarely sober throughout the production. According to The Guardian, he encouraged his cast and crew to party with him as part of the mockumentary experience. Sean Penn is a 5-time nominee and 2-time Oscar winner with many acclaimed performances, and even a few films as a director under his belt. Over the years, he has developed something of a negative reputation, a fact that Penn has knowingly embraced. In his Oscar acceptance speech for his performance in 2008's Milk, Penn said, "I do know how hard I make it to appreciate me." Penn has also made it clear on other occasions that he knows he can be difficult to work with and even to simply interact with on a personal level. He has been involved in many altercations and blow-ups with the directors of his movies and does not hesitate at all to voice his opposition to their creative decisions. All of this without even getting into his tangled history of domestic abuse allegations and violent altercations in the US and abroad. And while some of them have been disputed by all parties involved, the details remain murky. Morgan Freeman once held a reputation as a kind-hearted man, an upstanding member of society, and a role model for all. Not many actors can claim to be typecast as God, and as the go-to default for narration with one of the most distinctive voices in Hollywood. But after a long and storied career with a gentle and beloved reputation, Freeman was outed as a prolific predator. According to CNN, the actor was accused by at least 8 women of sexual harassment and groping on film sets. Though the news became public during the #MeToo movement that began in 2017, his pattern of inappropriate behavior was well known by those in the industry for years beforehand. A crew member on 2013's Now You See Me revealed that the woman on the shoot all knew to expect unwelcome sexual remarks and touching whenever he was on set. They even collectively decided to wear more conservative clothing in the hopes of combating his advances. Freeman is also known to make film shoots triangle deals for the directors he works with, even in some of his most acclaimed roles. When shooting The Shawshank Redemption, Freeman allegedly refused to do additional takes or follow the script. He also forced the big final moments of the film to be scrapped and changed because he considered them, as he stated in an interview with the New York Daily News, sort of asinine, sort of cliched, sort of unnecessary.
Over the years, several of William Shatner's former castmates have commented on the Star Trek star's allegedly difficult attitude. He's reportedly upset plenty of co-stars and even caused some feuds along the way. Shatner and fellow Trek vet Leonard Nimoy clashed over scripts and fan mail, and Shatner is said to be excessively sensitive to stories that favored Nimoy. Later in life, the pair patched up their differences, but that belated reconciliation may be a rare exception for Shatner. Reportedly, Shatner and Nichelle Nichols, with whom he shared TV's first interracial kiss, did not get along well at all, and she nearly left the show until Dr. Martin Luther King convinced Nichols of the importance of her role. Shatner later made waves when he refused to appear on stage with James Doohan at a convention in 2004. Doohan's farewell appearance following his Alzheimer's diagnosis. There's also the long-running feud between George Takei and Shatner, who've been at odds, often publicly, for several decades.
There's such a sickness there. It's so patently obvious that there is a psychosis there.
Well, I think his stability is quite questionable.
Really?
Shannen Doherty reportedly was notoriously hard to get along with on the sets of both Beverly Hills 90210 and Charmed. During her 90210 years, Doherty clashed with her co-stars, including Tori Spelling, who recounted an incident when Doherty and Ginny Garth nearly got into a fistfight. Spelling has admitted that she ultimately asked her father, 90210 producer Aaron Spelling, to fire Doherty. Years after the show ended, Jason Priestley wrote candidly about Doherty's attitude in his memoir, and Doherty responded by saying he had brain damage from a car accident. On the set of Charmed, Doherty ran into problems again, this time with co-star Alyssa Milano, who described the situation as very much sort of like high school. Doherty agreed.
There was too much drama on the set and not enough passion for the work.
Whatever caused the issues, they proved to be too much for Doherty or producer Aaron Spelling to handle, and she left the series after the 3rd season. Despite being a household name, Wesley Snipes has developed a bad reputation in Hollywood for his on-set antics. most notoriously during the production of 2004's Blade Trinity. According to co-star Patton Oswalt, Snipes insisted on being called Blade and would rarely leave his trailer.
You'd walk by his trailer and this wall of pot stench would just like, whoa, and kind of push you to the side.
Oswalt also recounted a much more serious incident in which Snipes tried to strangle the director, David Goyer, after which Goyer proposed that Snipes quit and his stand-in finished the film. This allegedly freaked Snipes out so much that he stopped talking to Goyer altogether.
After a while, he resorted to just he would communicate with Post-its that he would give to the director, and each one he would sign Blade.
After filming for Blade Trinity ended, Snipes sued Goyer and New Line Cinema, claiming they withheld part of his salary and didn't allow him to be part of the creative process. He was also allegedly upset because some of his screen time had been reduced in favor of Jessica Biel and Ryan Reynolds. The suit was later settled out of court. After racking up a string of early hits as a Disney starlet, Lindsay Lohan set about compiling a record of partying hard and leaving frustrated directors and co-stars in her wake. On the set of 2007's Georgia Rule, Lohan caused so many problems with her tardiness and no-shows, reportedly costing the production $500,000 a day, that producer James Robinson sent her an ultimatum, saying, quote, "I'm not going to put up with it." In 2012, a source from the set of Glee complained that the actress had been a total nightmare, again showing up several hours late to shoot. It seems that tardiness is a bad habit of Lohan's. A year later, anger management co-star Charlie Sheen told Jay Leno that Lohan had been late to the set by several hours, and had later borrowed a couple of bracelets from the production, which the show later deducted from her paycheck. The same year, New York Times Magazine published "Here is What Happens When You Cast Lindsay Lohan in Your Movie," a piece chronicling some of Lohan's most unbelievable misadventures on the set of Paul Schrader's The Canyons. Among her offenses, not showing up to set. Big surprise. Though he's apparently become more easygoing in recent years, it's been a hard battle to repair the damage Ed Norton caused to his reputation in the past. That reputation? A supposedly impossible perfectionist who siphons creative control for himself. While Norton is infamous for insisting the producers give him say over the final cut of the 1998 drama American History X, he surged back into the headlines while promoting 2008's The Incredible Hulk. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is generally action-packed, explosive, and witty. But when Edward Norton signed on to play Bruce Banner, he wanted a longer, more nuanced film with a deeper dive into Banner's backstory. Universal put its foot down, and the creative differences spiraled out of control. Norton barely even promoted the film, and took off for a humanitarian trip to Africa after the premiere, arguably harming the flick's box office bottom line. So in other words, you wouldn't like Norton when he's angry.